Tell us the story of how you bought the McLaren P1 and why you went to such an extreme in terms of what many would call a gamble. Like you didn't know it would get, become as popular as it did.
I mean, I started this project by seeing this car die like everybody else did on social media. So on Instagram and TikTok, you saw this car during Hurricane Ian floating down the street because its owner looked at it, was watching it from his door and, float out of the garage and down the street into a tree and all that stuff. And eventually it got lodged on what some people say it's a toilet. I don't think it's a toilet. I think it's probably an outboard motor or something. And then for the next 3 months, nobody really heard anything about it. But then I saw that it went up for sale on Copart. And Copart is this, site where you can buy salvage cars and whatever. And I didn't want to buy it. I really didn't want to buy it because I said, well, this is a $1 million hypercar. It's hybrid. So it has an electric battery and it was all the way underwater and it's salt water. And salt water does really, really bad things to everything, especially electrical. So I said, there's nothing on this car that's like savable. It's like you have to replace everything. The auction started, and then I think they put a buy it now of the car, and there was a lot of talk about what this car would go for. And I know Houston Crosta is a friend of mine. He wanted to buy the car, and I know some other dismantlers, they wanted to buy the car just as like parts or, artwork or something. And they were into it for like, if it goes for $200,000, I'll buy it, or if it goes for $250,000. First it went up for auction and it went up to $400,000 and it no sailed. So then it went up for auction a second time and it went for $398,000. So we knew that the market was around 390, like about $400,000 for this car. That's what people were actually willing to pay. So then they put a buy it now of $600,000 on this car. $600,000 was about half of what the car would be worth in good condition. That car in particular was sold for $2 million. 10 days before the storm hit, because it was had 315 miles on it. It was a really, really good spec. It was like the launch spec. It was an awesome car. I saw that the buy it now went from 600 to 575, and I'm like, hey, so the universe is now talking to me, and the universe says you have to buy this car. So I went to one of my friends who has some money, and I said, hey, do you know anybody who would be willing to lend me $500,000 like in the next few days? And he said, actually, I do. So there is a bank that's here in Central Florida. It's actually, I can give them a shout out. It's Climate First Bank. I told them the entire story. I wasn't like, oh, well, I have this car, but wink, wink, it does actually have a good title, but I just can't find it. No, I told them, here's this car. It was underwater. Here's all the videos. This is what I do. I'd make YouTube videos. I have these exotic cars. I've done exotic cars in the past. And they were very familiar with what I did because sort of like friends of friends, they were like, fans or whatever. And I said, here's how much I need for this car. I need $575,000. And I think I added an extra thing for transportation or initial parts or whatever. So I think I'm into it like 600. And they wrote me a check. They sent a check over to Copart 3 days later. We got everything done for the loan in 3 days.
What's their collateral on that? Because don't you say...
Boy, you're looking at it.
Okay. So it's not the car itself, because
No.
they're taking a loss on this, but you could basically say, hey, if
Yes.
this doesn't work out, we got all these other cars.
Yes. One good thing is I don't finance any of my cars. So all my cars are completely paid off by me. So I buy all my cars cash. So that means that I own all my cars. I have this... this garage full of cars. Here's what they're worth. Here's what, some comps are. Okay. And I will give you the titles to these. You can have them as liens.
Wow.
And that way I want to have my car. So I literally put my entire garage, put it up for this car.
What rate did you get on that loan?
We can talk about that off camera because it's,
okay.
It's more than 10 and less than 15.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk out there.
Yeah. Well, so here's
financing options.
So the financing was not my main concern, because my main concern was just getting the car. Yeah. I knew I could make money off the content, and I knew that I could make the content work. If I have to pay $60,000 a year or something like that on to have a P1 and have that on my channel and have that, I think that's probably worth it just because nobody else in the world would be doing this. So I felt like that was a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm curious for the original owner of the P1. They bought a $2 million car and then effectively a week later, it completely flooded.
Yeah.
What did they do? Was there any recourse? Their insurance? How much did that cover? Especially when they sold it still for effectively $600.
So next to this P1 was a brand new Rolls-Royce Phantom, and they were actually in the same Copart facility. And the Rolls-Royce was in really, really, really bad shape. It looked like the Hulk just smashed it. I think he got paid out pretty well. So the car he bought after this was a Bugatti Chiron. So I think he's okay.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's all right.
So for the P1, what's been the most surprising aspect in terms of working on it?
Just the fact that it is so, everything there is bespoke, like everything in that car is carbon fiber. The wheel wells, which in most cars are plastic or whatever, carbon fiber. There is a lot of like F1 technology in there. So, the wing has all these crazy hydraulics that are only for the car. They have to be, calibrated specifically for this model. And that works in conjunction with the suspension. And then everything else is bespoke. And, I thought because it's McLaren, they're going to have like a lot of parts that can go on different McLarens or whatever. It's actually very little of that. I've had to reverse engineer a lot of the stuff that they did at the factory because I know rebuilding a P1 sounds like it's really easy, but I actually wanted to go one step further. And with this car, we're trying to make the fastest McLaren on earth. So, instead of the P1's original top speed, which is like 217 miles an hour, which was limited by tires or whatever, we're trying to go for the record McLaren, which is the McLaren Speedtail, which is at 250. So I want to do 250 plus, 260, 270, something like that.
How much do you think you're going to spend on this McLaren?
Including the car, less than $1 million for sure.
And what do you think it's going to be worth by the time you're done with it?
That never matters to me. I don't know because it all depends on a few things. So the only thing that matters to people, to buyers, is like provenance. So a car could have been crashed. Something terrible could have happened to it. But as long as it was fixed right or it has the right provenance, it's still worth a lot of money. Like Mr. Bean's McLaren F1 got crashed twice.
Yes.
But it's still, that car is still worth 20 something million dollars. It's never going to be, a worthless hunk of crap. So I think if I rebuilt this and it was to the, sort of to the standard of what a McLaren should be, and it got the okay from McLaren, or it got some accolades where it's like the fastest McLaren on earth, or we had it out to Goodwood and it set some records or just did something notable, I think people would be like, oh my god, this is a really special car.
Yeah.
So and then I don't know what the value would be. I mean, $2 million, $3 million. I have no idea. Or it could just be people think that it was built by some stupid YouTuber and then they don't want to pay any money at all. So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. When do you think it's going to be done? Because you did a podcast a few months ago where you said 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. So 2 to 3 months. Yeah.
2 to 3 months.
Yeah. I didn't say when those 2 to 3 months were starting. So there you go.
That's a good point.
Yeah. There you go. I think I'm always very optimistic, very unrealistic with timetables. My time management skills suck. I always want these projects to be quicker than they are, but then you get hit in the face with reality where you're like, okay, well, just the wiring harness, which is back there, the wiring harness took $52,000 into that wiring harness in 5 months of work. And this is one of my friends, Adam. He runs a company called Smart EFI, and he's done all the wiring work to this car, and we had to make a wiring harness for a P1 from scratch, and this includes custom making a lot of stuff because not only are we, I'm getting a little bit geeky here, but the original P1 has 8 injectors. We have 16 injectors now. We have different turbos, so everything is electronically controlled. But we have to make that integrate with all the P1 stuff. Which means that there's more fans and more hydraulics and more this and that, and the active aero has to work and all that stuff. So that's a big hurdle. And then you go to the bodywork. So the bodywork, I want it to be all exposed carbon fiber, but then we have to put, candy over it. In order for it to be exposed carbon fiber, we have to, fix the bodywork that's there, then overlay carbon fiber, make it perfect, do the same thing for the doors and make everything fit. And, because we're doing a bespoke body for it. So, how much does that cost? How long is that going to take? I don't know.
How much original McLaren is going to be left by the time you're done with it? In terms of like a percentage.
I mean, the tub is going to be left. The frames are original McLaren. Everything's a McLaren part. But we're just like modifying it and just kind of making it better. And, it's just going to be a chopped and screwed version of what the car used to be.
Yeah.
So if you're all in on this car, let's say $1 million or so by the end of it, do you think that you could have started from scratch and done it for like 800? Just built your own McLaren?
Maybe, but that there's no way I can get a tub of a P1. There's certain thing for me, it's all about the story. And the story is that this car died famously. Like everyone saw this car die, and everyone is going to be rooting for either my failure or my success. Nobody's going to be like, oh, I don't really care. They're going to be like, oh my God, that seems like it's impossible. How's this guy going to do it? Or this guy's never going to do it, and I want to see him fail. So I'd rather that be the story of the car versus me just going, I want to make a car from scratch. Let's see if I can do it. And then I just have $800,000 and I'm rich and I want to build a car. So here you go. Like, I don't want that. I want to be like the guy that buys this car that's way above his pay grade, and he puts everything on the line, literally, that he's built over the years to do it. So that's sort of where I'm at.